Guys, it's me again, Orc Relatives, where we last left off. Deku essentially took over, well, I guess in this case, London, with his very high population and such. He essentially, and what he's doing is having all his teams and such work very swiftly and such, trying to make up for the fact that the Earth has pretty much taken back England. They're tearing down old buildings and such, and doing a lot of reconstruction, in a way. Setting up walls, defenses, and everything. Now I'll give you an overview of how the world is at the moment. I'll say this takes span over 6 months, and they relatively restore and improve upon what was already there. In that 6 months, the lions, jaguars, and all of them, their population, all three of those, like those three people literally just say, you know what, we've been working together for so long, why don't we just merge the houses at this point? So the three of them merged into one house, just becoming, well, I guess the House of Japan, I guess, would be the best way to say it, the House of Japan. Because that is where they are staying at. Deku having England, or London in that case. Deku essentially asked the city for information about farmland and such. So that way they can have their own supplies and such, instead of just having scavenge and such. They can grow their own crops and such, so that way they can feed it into the servitors much more effectively. In the 6 months, aside from the House of the Alliance just coming together and just forming the House of Japan, or the House of the Rising Sun, there we go, with Five Finger Death Punch, or that other band I can't remember the name of, House of the Rising Sun. But what Deku does, not Deku, but this time, all the other houses pretty much collapse in on themselves and become the House of Dusk. So they will still be a thing in this universe. They don't, like, the other minor houses don't go off and join Deku, because they've sort of learned, like, are throwing away the whole Kel system and such, becoming what they are in the game, and just forming that one mega house. Their numbers span into the billions. I believe so, at least, because I looked at the population and I'm like, the UK right now has like 55 million people. So I'm like, yeah, they've gotta be having some large numbers, at the very least. So, Deku and them are pretty much, after they have like sort of built their own walls around their city, around their cities and such, they have open trade and such with the house of the Rising Sun, and also the House of the Dusk. And also in this time, the Cabal have pretty much just, their activity is so minimum that it's almost like they've died off. The city and such are expanding much greater, and actually trying to find a lot more Golden Age tech to improve their cities and such. He actually even opens trade business, Deku does, with the whole cities and such, both of them. Dead Orbit has come to recognize them as not really a threat. At least Deku has come. Most of the factions and such have come to realize they are not as much of a threat. Because, like I've said, he's pretty much stated this plainly, and I'll give you an insight on what happened. Both the vanguards had gathered the factions that were around their city, and as they're sitting there, Deku opens a transmission feed. As everyone, all the faction leaders and such are asking, what is this and such? Sorry, I'm yawning. What is that Deku is speaking directly to them and giving his side of the story, saying that he does not want a conflict with the city, because he has come to realize that the Guardians are powerful. Not giving the whole, not revealing them to be like Praetorians and such. He's just saying that the Guardians are powerful. It's more of a detriment and such to his people or his house, that if they continue hostilities. So he says this, he'll offer peace, and that and that they will be given access to his territory. Meaning, like, he'll help them, like, and protect their ships and such that are transporting supplies and the like. And that when his crops and such get going, he'd be willing to offer them a percentage for the right price, of course, is what he says. So he's opening up trades and such. House of Dusk have same trades with them as well. Sorry. House of the Rising Sun is also in trade negotiations with the city. And Deku talks with the vanguards about this, and Nana Shimura and them. Nana Shimura and such even come around and visit. She coming to look at London nice and repaired. As they take a walk around the palace. The palace being very large indeed, with dozens of guards. And they even actually, in like an old archive, found some pictures of, well, the king and queens of old. And look at some of the royal guards. And not to make fun of anyone, if you know the royal guards, because they are deadly, they look at some of their armor, some of their clothes and such, and think, the hats are kinda over the top, aren't they not? They're thinking, probably, get a lot of heat struck in those, wouldn't you? Yeah, probably. The coats are cool, though. They look nice. As some of them are commenting on it. Some of them even adopting some old British-style clothing in a way. Not, like, completely. Like, I'm not talking about, like, flare and, like, little white things. I'm just talking, like, the coats and such. Even, like, some of the military officers. Like, if you heard me before, I said that Deku looked at some of these military officer coats before and started like recognizing them as they look cool and he could make them durable, so he started adding them to his like more higher ranked arsenal and such. So instead of just capes that fly around in more armor, they got a mixture between looking good and being more protected. But anyways, as they're all like walking around, they essentially have their own royal guards. Kirishima has taken over the whole security detail. Toga has taken over, well, her usual position, scouts and such, scouting out land. Several of the younger and women and children and such of the fallen, most of the men, I guess, would say, have joined his military. And he has his own personal police force, like I said, to like deal with inside like things. Because remember what I said, he has Winter and Devils, like, civilians coming together. That would cause some friction inside. So they are essentially there to, like, be his, well, not his enforcer. Yeah, I guess best way to say it is his enforcers of the law that he has set before them. They're pretty similar, like, don't steal, don't kill, etc., etc. And he even has judges. They like make use of everything and have actually looked deep into the history of humanity from this ancient archive that they've uncovered. It doesn't show things about how to build such, but it shows them how to, like, how history proceeded and such. Like old history and such. I'm looking at this and starting to learn deep. Is in fact teaching this to younger fallen, pretty much making it mandatory to send them to some form of school where they can be taught in a way, after assigning a few fallen and such to learn more. He also contacts Varix and such about learning more, like and such, by saying to like send over some history that the children could learn about, aside from just old tales. Because he knows Varix has some form of information about the history of the Fallen. Which I'll say he does, and he pretty much just sends a copy over. By, like, copy, send. Now, with all that out of the way, now gets the time of the scorn. What happens in this time? Aldrin Sov kills, well, King Kell of Kings. If I remember, I said that in the last video. But during this time, they've been on the run. He still encounters them and the trap is set. But the Reef doesn't want to get this on without a little bit of muscle, so they contact Deku, asking for assistance capturing Aldrin Sov and the Scorn, but I'm pretty sure Aldrin Sov turns himself in. They tell him that Aldrin Sov has turned himself in, and that a dangerous fallen known as Fickrel the Fanatic intends to, well, harm a lot of civilians and such, and that they request his aid. Being more polite about it, knowing that he is busy. He doesn't just say, alright, I'll send you some of my troops. He essentially says, I'll be there with 100 of the best that I have, and myself will be coming along, as they fly off. I don't know how powerful the Scorn are at this time, but he arrives at the Reef with his nice little 100 troops following him, as they meet with Petrovenge and Varix, hearing the details and such, and he's saying, when do we move in? Now, I have no idea how tall the Fanatic is, or even this other fallen, I forget her name, but she's the second in command to him. And she is massive. I mean, like, massive. It's like she's a monster, quite literally. And as he hears the information, he's like, we can do that. So as they get everything organized and such, they set the trap off. Deku and his 100 falling in and just start bashing away the Scorn, because they don't have that large of numbers yet, as far as I know. They cut through the Scorn and such, and make their way to some of the bearings. Now, if I remember correctly, they say all but 8 or 7 of the 8. Was it 8 or 7 bearings? Fickrel, the Bomber, her, Trickster, the Rider, the Hangman, and the Huntsman, I believe is the name. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then there's Aldrin Sov, who's the 8th in the game. What happens at this time, what Deku does is he sees another one of the Scorn Barons. Because if I remember correctly, like I said, one of them died. Or a few of them, yeah. One of them died. This one's name is known as the Cleaver. What this one is known for as well, using a giant cleaver-like sword and smashing through their opponents like their butcher. He isn't the executioner, he's the grinder. Coming in and slamming down his sword, trying to cut through Deku's forces. But he easily blocks his attack and shoves him away, rushing forward with his 2 swords, meeting the butcher in combat. With Cade and a team of guardians, I believe, is what he had, they immediately start taking down the Scorn numbers very rapidly, with Frames and other Corsairs and such, and even Suyu and them are there, Suyu being a close friend of Cade's. She hops around, she sees Deku going toe-to-toe with another fallen commander, thinking to herself, well, that is typically how he does it. He goes for the commanders, believes him to cut off the head of the snake and it'll die. So he's right. As he continues to fight the Cleaver, 2 swords clashing and slipping off one another. His brute strength and skill are actually a little bit beyond Deku's when it comes to brute strength. But Deku has more finesse and such, so he's able to get more stabs and such in, eventually whittling him down little by little, and eventually finally finish the Scorn Baron off. Not wanting him to get back up, he literally just right off with his head, sending it tumbling. The other Scorn Baron sees this, specifically Fickrel, as he points out Deku, saying, I can't do a voice, I think. He does like a whispered, he's like very whispered, like, as he points out his finger and like charges at Deku. It's like, come on, keyhead. Rushing forward to clash with him. I think at this point, Fickrel has that whole staff with the shard of Traveler. He takes it and comes to match with Deku. But before Deku can get close, he points it down and like is hit by the headsman, as the headsman has the mind bender. That's the Fallen I was forgetting about, the mind bender. So there was 9. Alright. What happened in this time? He's blasted by Fickrel's sort of spice spear after the headsman has swung his like little flail and bashed Deku right in the shoulder. Before the headsman could finish him off, Deku thrust his sword forward, nicking him right in the like, you know where your elbow is on the underarm. He's managed to get it right through there, messing up his twirling arm. As then at that same point, he's blasted by the shard of the Traveler, sending him flying away and almost dead. That's how hard this thing hit. Fanatic charged a large part of energy into this. Now with that over with, the headsman goes to finish him off, not before being tackled by like 10 of Deku's personal bodyguards. As the fanatic and the headsman are rushing at him, trying to claw their way towards him. Each one of them are throwing themselves right at the fanatic or the headsman, intending to slow down his progress, as Deku is pretty much dragged away. Similar to how similar to how Lehman Russ was when he was fighting Horus. Is that each of the Space Wolves threw themselves at Horus, trying to slow him down, enough for them to drag their Primarch away. But in this case, it's Deku being dragged away, as he's like, get off me! Like, trying to struggle out of the way so that way he can, like, grab a weapon or something. I got hair in my mouth. Kill me. Sucks. As Deku's being dragged away, Suyu and them see this as the Fickrel and the headsman are beelining it for him. Fickrel starts raising some of the scorn to come alive. They start clawing at Deku's troops. The biggest and toughest rush to the front, smashing the small fry away. Then as soon as that happened, okay, I'll give this, not the fanatic, but the ones that are part of Deku's personal bodyguard could be essentially said to be captain rank, with swords and shields and such, and glaives and such, with also energy shields. So they're trying their best. As they're holding off these small fry, they continuously charge at the fanatic and the headsman. With eventually, as they have been led far enough away, Deku's remaining 50 of his bodyguards are finally dragged away. As they fall back, letting them know heavy damage, and the Panther is pretty much almost on the point of being unconscious. With them understanding, and as Fickrel and them are still chasing, they send in the Corsairs in an airstrike, pretty much carpet bombing the Scorn and such that are chasing after him, with the headsman being caught in the blast and being thrown away and knocked out, with Fickrel being the last one, trying to raise more, but they are too heavily damaged to even be brought back. With at that point, Suyu, Cade, and such charge in, pretty much throwing stasis things at him, getting him to pretty much fall unconscious. As Deku's pretty much leaned up against a giant rock, with his breastplate and such is scorched and penetrated deep. As they remove it, they see a deep gouge right into his chest. Realizing they gotta get this fixed fast, and then they load him up into a medical transport. As he's taken back to the reef to be operated on. The fallen medics, I guess, take quick work, easily patching and sewing up his injuries. But the not scar tissue, he'll have a nasty scar, but his inside, he may have some breathing problems due to the electric and blast, so that it has done some stuff to his lungs, my guess would be. So he has a harder time breathing. So they implement a little bit of technology to help him breathe better. He doesn't sound like General Grievous at all, just making that clear. He's like Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I can't do a whole robotic voice, I am sorry. He just speaks a little differently now, sounding different, that's all. As in, he makes it back, and after being compensated for the loss of his men and such, after the bodies were returned to them, they were all laid to rest, and Deku was able to take a break, just chilling with his friends and family. This time, Mina and Kirishima pretty much just got hitched. It's like, da 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 da. As I don't know any fallen ceremonies for whole marriage and such, so I'll say they sort of copy some parts of human history again. Deku pretty much, as they asked, he's like, why are you asking me? Well, you are, with how you are, like, following the traditions. I don't know of any ancient following traditions. Aside from the band. If I remember correctly, I said the husband, Deku's father, gave his mother a band or something that was shown as being something, sign of their marriage or something. So they just do something similar. Them getting matching necklaces or something. And rings. A very big ring. My question is, would it be a set of rings for each side, for each hand? Like, for instance, would they have would they have 2 rings for both arms? I mean, both hands, like one on top right, one on top left and one on bottom left? That sort of thing is what I'm curious about. That's an interesting question. Sorry. Throat's a bit dry. So as Deku and the Morrow proceeding with this, he sort of takes a break and slips away. Same thing with Toga. They all enjoy their merry festivals and such, like, and there's a celebration. Deku goes away to sit by himself for a little bit and look over some reports. Being met with Toga again. It's like, busy night? He's like, yep. How are you feeling? He's like, oh, Liv. It's been a week since the attack, by the way. As she's like, here, let me see it. She's like, what? He's like, you've already seen it, it's fine. She's like, let me see it. He's like, he finally just removes a bit, and it's a very deep and painful looking scar. She sort of feels it. He's like, that feels weird. Stop. As she puts his arm back on for him. Thanks. It looks like we're getting trade options with the city and such. Some of their foundries and such are interested in trading weaponry and such. Looking over some of the offers they're making. Some of them are not half bad, but some of them are doing better. With our request for frames and such, they've agreed to it. We didn't ask for the latest models. We asked for just the designs. We may be able to make shanks and such, but compared to these frames, they're pieces of junk. We can easily start producing these. Some of those old factories that thankfully weren't too damaged, as he says that with quotations, they should be up and running in no time. I think we'd be good, Miss Toga. Yeah. By the way, what are we? As he's like, can you explain? Define what you mean? She's like, are we a thing or what? I'm not entirely sure. She's confused about it. He always thought they were a thing. He's like, I thought we already were. They never really took time to say it because they've been too busy doing jobs and such. It just sort of happened. Like, everyone knows it's a thing, but Togo's like, are we a thing? Good. Like, she's active possessive in the past, but he's always been nonchalant about it. So she was thinking, like, does he see us as a thing or what? She started to let it run through her head, and she really couldn't pinpoint on it. So she's like, I'll just ask him directly. He says, well, I've always thought we were. Like, I thought that was a thing that didn't need to be said. He's like, well, to be fair, how sometimes Jack, he's like, being nonchalant about talking to Ari and such, that was you being jealous. I thought you were acting jealous because of that. It's like, oh, well, you've been questioning it this entire time? He's like, well, we've been... Yes. She says it plainly. Like, come here. As he, like, brings her in for a hug. She's like, you're the only one for me. We've been together for the longest time, so it'd be weird if we weren't. Gotta find someone for Kaminari, though. Otherwise, he's gonna end up alone forever. It's like, well, I do know one of my scouts have been looking. He's like, trust me, he probably needs something. As they continue to talk throughout the night. And I'll say a few months have gone past again. Deku has had an relevantly easy time, and some of the crops are starting to grow. They even managed to find some cows and such to herd after they learned a little bit of tricks and such from the city. Again, they've been hearing reports from the House of Dust saying that something's coming, but they don't know exactly what yet. Them thinking about it, just thinking and thinking. Something's making its way into the system. The House of Dust does have several outposts along multiple planets, so it would make sense that they notice something before anyone else. Maybe it's something about the Cabal? No. Well, maybe. He's running it through his head. He's running it after receiving news and such, and he's even received the same news from the House of the Rising Sun. They think something's gonna go down. Deku running it through his head, like, running it a lot. I'm just thinking, what? He decides it's best to prepare. So, with his factories and such, he starts to decide to crank out some more planes and such. His fleet and such is resting on England and such. They have them ready to be deployed at any moment. There's constant maintenance because of Kaminari's engineers and such. And with a larger pool of people to pull it from, he's starting to train like anyone he really can. Toga and such teaches others how to like do such and such, and they teach some of them how to farm and etc. and etc. The servitors are cranking out more now. There's a lot going on for Deku. With, well, everything going on, he also is producing more weapons and such. This being taken notice of by the city with their whole the city taking notice of this through Ikora's Hidden and such. And Zavala contacts them curious, if I remember. Did I say that already? Sorry, I had to go for a bit. I had to use the bathroom. I think I said Ikora since her hidden and such. And Zavala questions him, taking notice of the large amount of weapons and such that he has produced. He makes up the excuse, well, since they've been giving the details on the frames and such, he thought it'd probably be best to well, have the weapons and such for them to pilot them. Then he asks, what about the ships? Well, he thinks, well, now that the frames and such would probably help take away some of the pressure from ground forces, so that way they can use some machines instead of a bunch of fallen. That would probably be a good idea to increase the amount of, well, airships that we have, so that way they can combat with that. And even, believe it or not, he actually starts getting somewhat of a navy going. He finds relics. And I mean, these are ships that are old. Like, they belong in a museum. Old. Not for, well, at least the Golden Age standards. And looks them over. And sees that they are actually pretty good. And I say these are U.S. battleships, I guess. I don't know exact battleships, but I'll just say they're similar to U.S. and such. Basic things, giant cannons, guns, and blah blah blah. He gets a few of those going with like a few little small boats, like I believe they're called destroyers. I think it's destroyers. They have no aircraft carriers yet, but he starts making small boats to patrol along some of their boat borders and such. So as that is being taken care of, House of Rising Sun and the House of the Rising Sun has increased their borders and such, doing pretty much expanding very similar to how Japan did during World War II, and takes over other places, and they eventually reach Hawaii, which caused a little bit of a ruckus there with, well, the last city in America, not last city, but the city in America, having sent troops over there and such, like, sort of have it like how the U.S. does as just a military base. And as the Fallen and such start landing troops there to start building their outpost, this causes a bit of friction. The FOTC and such almost get into an entire shootout after the House of the Rising Sun and the America city sort of asking Deku to send some form of a diplomat. Since Deku's dealing with some stuff there, looking over reports, he sends in his best diplomat, or I guess one of his most trusted, Mina. She's like, oh, what's the problem here? Then you start, like, going on and on about it. The other one's starting to point out, they're like, hey, why don't we just make this a joint thing, House of Rising Sun will have troops stationed here, and you have troops stationed here, because from the look of it, when I was flying around in my ship, well, in the transport ship, you guys really don't have the entire island under your control. So I'll say we'll split down the middle and such, as she's laying out the ideas and such, after getting everything cooled down. Getting from everyone pointing guns at everybody, like Mexican standoff, to getting everyone having their guns lowered, but just enough so that way they can flick them up just in case. After hearing this out, they sort of radio this in and get clear confirmation that it would indeed be alright. And they say, well, welcome to the island, neighbor. As the other ones give a chuckle. We may borrow a cup of sugar. As they all laugh at the joke. As Mina then goes back, going like, oh, God damn it. With this European dead zone, yeah. With Deku having pretty much complete control over England and such, at the very least, the House of Dusk spans over on several other planets, like I said, and from, like, Europe, like Germany and such, as far as I know. I don't know if they actually have a place over in England, though. I'm not ever entirely sure about that. Because it's called the European Dead Zone, which may mean, well, wait a fucking second. Oh, God, I don't know. Is the last city located in Russia? Like, I think it may be, but where does... Oh my God, I'm so confused. I'll say it lies on the outskirts, I guess. Like, I don't know. As their such, all that is taken care of and the like, Deku and them are focusing more and more on their own production. Several more months pass. In this small time, Deku and Toga have gotten hitched. Calling everyone is now referring to Toga as the Kell's wife. In a way, I guess. Or the queen, I guess, since they've been looking at the other thing. Kell of Panthers, Queen of Panthers, I guess. I don't know. As Toga pretty much rules alongside Deku with her information network and scouts, which Kaminari falls under her. Kaminari has a lot on his plate. Like, he's a scoutmaster and sniper, and like snipers and such, along with the engineer. Man, some of the others have not easier jobs, but they have pretty simple jobs. You can see why Kaminari is like the most stressed out of all of them, like aside from just Deku. Deku's like very sort of hands-on with the situation, wanting not to let anything like get out of control, so he looks over the reports daily. And again has gone into advisor mode and sort of ruler instead of being the warrior commander. He's fallen away from that, ironically. Has taken up the position of sort of leader. Him looking over reports and studying them, looking over other reports, and he's actually very much of a businessman, I guess. Looking over several other reports and trade deals that they're looking around with outside houses and such. A very good relationship between them and the House of the Rising Sun, and then another good relationship with the last city, with the two cities. The guy about New Zealand. And the guy about saying, why not New Zealand? Well, it's just because England's the first thing that came to mind, so, yeah. Sorry about that. I didn't realize New Zealand's an island, though. But, oh well. Forget about that. With that being said and such, several more months passed. They have prospered quite greatly, with trade relations with the outside world doing very, very well. The House of Panthers is reigning top, with its I guess, militaristic might being very, very high. Like, compared to other forces and the Sol system, they're doing well. Deku has not forgotten about the Holy Crusade that was assigned to him, but, you know, he sort of have, again, to worry about saving lives instead of being this one going off and banishing evil. He's decided to leave that to the Guardian and such, but he has agreed to sort of like help them, having Toga and her scouts provide information about Vex Gates, Hive, and I guess Hive installations or whatever, and keeping a close eye on the Cabal on Mars. And in this time, I believe it should be around almost year 2. As they keep on going, Nana, Shimura, and them have come around a few more times, hanging out with Deku. Her and Deku building actually a relatively very good relation. And during this time, the Speaker comes in a very special looking ship. As he's flying around, he like lands in the air docks, coming out with an entourage of, I guess, guards. I don't know if the Speaker actually had any guards. Like, for all I knew, he just stood in that little thing right there. So I said he comes along with several Guardians that act as his personal bodyguards. When this comes in, a common, like, the people give a slight bow, knowing that Deku sees him as Deku has told them about the safe city and such, and tells them what he thinks the Speaker is and what he knows about Speaker and his visions. Several of them come to conclusion as well that he is some sort of prophet. As he walks down the streets, others like immediately part ways and give him like bows and praises and such. Not like on their hands and knees, but they give like bows and such, sort of like a polite bow. with like big looking guards and such, like sort of giving them their salute and such, their form of salute. It's like, well, the Guardian's like, this is a positive reception. I'll say the guards and such are Ida, Sato, and Todoroki, and Momo. Momo having come here before. As they all get to the palace, Deku's throne room, and how he actually has his like colors and such flown up on the walls, and has a giant panther banner behind his throne. It's a very practical chair. It isn't like one of those how monarchs typically have their chairs. He has a comfy seat where you can like lean back in it. Like, yeah, this is good. With the speaker saying, "Hello, Deku, it's been a while." He's like, "Speaker." With the royal guards being around there as well, as they like sort of look at him. Some of them get closer to Deku, just in case the Guardians try something. Deku gets up from his chair and such, being giant compared to the other fallen in the room, and even the speaker himself, as he takes steps downstairs, with him sort of bending down on one knee and shaking the speakers. Well, I guess the speaker shaking his finger. One of them goes like, "Don't pull." With that being said, like, "What brings you today, speaker?" It's like, "Well, I wish to see the city you have built." He's like, "Ah, impressive, no? Our farms are yielding quite a lot, and the cows and the other farms with the other animals are also doing quite well. Our factories and armories are being filled up, and the frames and such that you have so graciously provided us with, we've been making more frames." It's like, that's good to hear. So, how's anything else? Well, the people are happy, and the children are learning a bit more about Earth's history through an archive we found deep beneath the Earth. She's like, "Oh, really? May I see it?" As he says, "Sure," as he brings it forward. It seems this information comes past before the Golden Age. It's very deep and detailed. I'm surprised anything like this is left on the planet. Oh, shit. The speaker saying very much the same, as he takes a notice of Deku's armed guards and such, saying that your guards are very well armed. It's like, yes. I made a point to ensure safety of our city. My city is taken very well care of. And in these few years, population of Deku City has almost reached 1 million. With trading with not almost 1 million. I said he had 500,000, 400,000, 500,000. I say around 750,000 maybe. I don't know. I'll just divide it by, just add half of the number of 5,000 to it, so 7,500. With that being said, they get it well done, having a very large population one of the largest that he has seen. And he asked about the House of Dusk. He's like, we have some trade, but not much. They tend to stick to themselves, not wanting to associate with a Kel. But with the House of the Rising Sun, they do well, much trading, and even each of our populations, I guess, we have granted the access to go between back and forth, to build relations, so that way we don't become isolationists, is what he says, is that he wants like to keep good relations between not just him and like Kells and such, but he wants good relations in general between the people or the fallen of each of the houses. So that way they don't come to like isolate or think of themselves as being somewhat better in a way. And now, after the speaker comes and speaks to him about, it's like, Deku, but to come finish what I actually came talking to you with, as he sends the Guardians away. Deku, seeing this, he sends the Fallen away as they go to his private quarters. Speaking to Deku, now this is not canon as far as I know, but he speaks to Deku. Deku, I've had a premonition. He's like, what could you transcribe from it, speaker? Or prophet? He's like, I don't know, but there's a war coming. I don't know if it's true or not, but I feel it, and I think you should know. Prepare yourself. This will be a bloody conflict. Him understanding this and such, he's like, I understand. What about you, though? Will the city be safe? It's like, the Guardians have kept us safe for hundreds of years. We will continue to be so under their care. He's like, the Guardians can be killed just as much as any of us. Just as you or I. He's like, from what I heard, you're actually pretty difficult to kill, even by Guardian standards. It's like, oh, don't. He's like, he took a lightning blast from a corrupted Traveler Shard. Not anyone could walk away from that, Guardian or not. He's like, I barely survived. I almost died. He's like, I can tell by the sound of your voice. His voice sounds I am not the same. It's like very hushed and such. Not the same as the Fickrel, but similar in a way. Just leave it at that. As Toga comes in with more reports, as the speakers are like, well, I think it's time I take my leave. He's like, I'll have some of my men escort you back to your ship. Safe flight, speaker. It's like, thank you for your hospitality, Deku. It's like, come back any time. She's like, so what was that? The speaker and I were just catching up. Him not wanting to lie to his wife, but, well, he doesn't know if he would have, if he wanted anyone else to know this information, he would have made it public. But he didn't. He came directly to Deku for some reason. Deku realizing this news and amping up production of weaponry even more so. And this is where I'll be ending it off. I hope y'all have enjoyed this, and I hope y'all have a nice day, nice night, nice life. And, oh, I don't want to say this. But for the views and such, like, it says that I have a lot of people that watch my videos and such, but I don't know if it's like sporadically or what. So, I don't know. I guess check it daily, I guess, is what I would be saying. Not telling you to comment, like, and subscribe. I'm just saying, like, I guess. I don't know if it's just what. You guys have lost interest in, like, most of you have lost interest in this series, or what? Because it's not that I'm upset or anything, I'm just curious. Like, some of you said you were interested in seeing this back. And I did take a break for a while. I actually took a longer break than I thought I would from this series. But anyways, hope you all have a nice day, nice night, nice life. There.